I'd never stop praying. I was always praying, and I would go into the... in every hospital in England, there's a chapel. I presume it's the same in America. And I'd go in there, and I'd talk to God, and I'd argue with God, and I'd talk to him as though he was my father, my own, my dad. And I just pray and pray and pray, but I just knew that he was going to help me. And I still pray. I wanted to tell the world, if I could, the night of the operation, if I could have stood on the top of the biggest mountain in the world, I wanted everybody to know that God did give us a miracle. And he really, really did. He truly, truly did. When the Guinness Book of Records were first counting Craig's cards, they said to me that if each card was stood end to end, they would have covered the Mount Everest range. This is experts at Guinness who worked it out. And believe me, if I could have got to the top of Mount Everest, I would have screamed out to the world, thank you, God, for this miracle. It was a miracle. Truly, truly, truly was a miracle. Again, I think it was love. It was sight. You get this sort of second energy from somewhere. Just everything. But I do really, truly believe that God was with me the whole time. And when we got to the hospital, I really couldn't believe my eyes. There were babies, little children, 3, 4 years old, older children. And one little girl in particular, her name was Emma, I shall never forget her. And she was in the corner. It was a 4-bedded ward. And she was laying in the corner. And she was screaming. And I was crying to see this poor little girl screaming like this. I just couldn't believe it. And I think I must have been in shock, really, because I thought, what is this medicine? What are they doing to these children to make them scream like that? And this beautiful mother of another child, she came over to me and she put her arm around me and she said, Marion, please do not lose your faith. And I said, but why? What have these children done wrong? Why? What are we looking at? What is it? And she said to me in the most wonderful voice and with such feeling, and she said, Marion, there are 2 powers, the power of evil and the power of God. I was very fortunate, and I wrote a book on Craig's life story, and because of that, it has enabled me to help send 7 other children to America. And we did lose, sadly, one little boy, but it was just wonderful that he had the opportunity to go, even though it wasn't successful. But all the others were fine. Since 1989, we have raised over £4 million for cancer research. So without the cards, that wouldn't have happened. We've also bought 2 guide dogs for the blind. We have helped the Lifeboat Society, the Leprosy Society, and we've bought a cot monitoring machine to save a baby for the local hospital. So we've worked very hard, and it's through the help and the love of everybody that sent cards to Craig. It's just wonderful. Oh, I'm just so proud of him. He's wonderful. He really is very, very special. When we go back to the hospital, people want to touch him. There is something about him. He's got a wonderful personality. He never complains about anything. He only sees the good in people. He's just a very, very, very special, must say, man now. Craig is now 22 years old. And he's just got a great spirit. He really, truly, truly is a wonderful man. Because it gives hope to other people. There's so many terminally ill people, so many children sick. And it also proves there's a lot of love in the world. I mean, our hearts go out to everybody with the terrible disaster in New York and the wickedness and the terrorists and everything else. But there are good people. I mean, if you can imagine all those millions of people that have wrote to Craig, if we all lived on our own, what a wonderful world it would be. And I just think we're just so blessed, and I think it gives faith to people. It makes people believe in God, because there is a God, and he is out there, and he is helping us.
When I first heard I had the brain tumour, I was 9 years old. I woke up in Great Ormond Street Hospital, and Mother said to me, I've got a brain tumour. And I said, Mum, I know already. Because a little girl on a programme we watch over here had one herself, and I knew I had one. Yep, I knew that right from the beginning. God helped me all the way. I prayed to him every night. I still do now. how I felt at the beginning. I felt, why me? Why did God pick me? And I don't know why he did. I just guess he chose me so I could show inspiration to everyone else, because he got me better. And every time I go into a hospital now, people look at me and say, if he can do it, I can do it. I can see it in their face. No, I believe in everything. Believe in God, believe in my doctor. Faith has just got better and better. My faith has. Me, I do kung fu now. I go out playing golf with my dad sometimes. Play a lot of pool, swimming. I do more or less everything. Just please, all of you, try to keep happy and have faith, because there's a new treatment coming out every day. And just keep believing you're going to get well, and keep happy and smiling, because you'll do it.
When I first read the script, I cried. I was deeply moved by the story. And I told my husband, I said, I hope I get to do this movie, because this is something that I feel really deeply about, and it's a really extraordinary story. What attracted me to the part of Marion Shergold was, number one, she is the driving force behind the story. She's a very strong woman. She has a tremendous amount of faith. She has a great deal of character and perseverance, tenacity, and deep love for her child. And all of those qualities are really a gift, and, for any actress to be able to play a character like that. I admire Marion Shergold's faith. Her faith in divine intervention, her faith in God, her deep conviction that her son was going to be healed miraculously, in spite of all of the doctors and the medical institutions and every conventional arena telling her that he was going to die over and over again. And she just kept trying and kept believing. And that level of faith is so extraordinary and so beautiful, and such a deep, shows such deep quality of love, that I wish there were more people like that around.
Yes, I had first heard about the story of Craig Shergold years and years ago, when my mom had forwarded an email to me saying that there was a little boy who had cancer, and he was looking for get well cards and trying to collect the most amount of get well cards of anyone in the world. And I remember getting that email, and I think quite a few members of my family actually sent cards to him. I really enjoyed playing this role of Josh, the reporter who was skeptical about a miracle happening in his hometown. At the same time, he was a guy who honestly was open-minded to finding out the truth, and he was willing to accept it if the facts lined up. As a man who believes in God, it was interesting for me to play the role of a skeptic, because I think in this day and age, it's very easy to be skeptical of things like God and things such as religion, especially when you see religion being perverted and into things that we're seeing all over the world now, and things that have happened in the name of God in New York City and Washington. And I think it's good to be skeptical about things so that you don't get tricked into believing lies. At the same time, we can't be so skeptical that we close ourselves off to the truth. Well, I definitely believe that God is performing miracles all the time, mostly for the purpose of turning our hearts and our eyes toward Him. So often we like to take credit for the things that we do and the things that we accomplish, whether it's at our jobs or in our personal lives, or whether it's science and technology. And ultimately, I think that nothing happens completely accidentally or outside of the will of God. And like I said, I think God is performing miracles all the time, and certainly Craig Shergold being cured and healed of his cancer falls right squarely into God's plans for him and everyone who knew him.
I play Dr. Cassell, who is the brain surgeon who performed the sort of last-ditch attempt operation procedure on Craig Shergold to relieve him of this malignant tumor that he has in his brain, and is just a part of the miracle. He gets in there and discovers that something has happened to this mass and it's turned into a sort of pearl-like opalescent substance, and that it is in fact benign and gets chipped away. There have been many, many episodes on my show that have underscored the value of prayer and community worship. They form a very important part of it. And there are other stories where prayer and this sort of thing is not functionally a part of the story, but because of the outcome of these stories, the miraculous outcome, people having been saved or reunited or healed, people have begun to open themselves to the possibilities of prayer and religious faith. So they do form a strong part of a lot of these stories. I think that a picture like this is very important because it allows us to realize, it allows us to focus on the fact that wonderful, extraordinary, miraculous things are happening every day in people's lives, and that the world is still full of love and hope and healing. And it gives us an alternative way of looking at the world we're in right now. These are stories we always need to be told because our own lives are so often challenged and full of sadness. We need to remember that, number one, there are people who have suffered more than we do, and there are people who have achieved success through even greater odds. So these stories of inspiration and hope are always useful, but I think they're particularly useful today.
I learned about the story from a chain letter that my brother in Vermont sent to my producing partner, Bob Woods. And the letter said, Craig Shergold is an 8-year-old boy with a brain tumor. He's trying to break the Guinness record. Please send Craig a card and then send this letter to 10 of your friends. Bob sent a letter to Craig, sent the letter to 10 of his friends, and one of the friends wrote back and said, the kid broke the Guinness record and he's cured. Read the enclosed article. And it was an article from Reader's Digest, which had excerpts of a book written by Marion Shergold and Pamela Cockrell. And I read the article and was absolutely blown away. It was inspiring. It was heartwarming. I still had tears on my cheeks when I called Bob and said, you've got to read this. This is a movie. We've got to make this movie. And that is how the story came to my attention. I actually got the title, The Miracle of the Cards, from Marion. We were talking about the book and the fact that it had come out under 2 different titles in the UK and the US. It was Craig Shergold, A Mother's Story in one country, and The Get Well Kid in the other. And Marion said, the title that I wanted for the book was The Miracle of the Cards. Do you suppose that could be the title of the movie? And I just thought it was a terrific title, and I told her right then and there that was the title I was putting on the script. The first thing I did before even starting on the screenplay was to read the book many, many times. And I read Dr. Cassell's account of meeting Craig and the operation. I had long conversations with Marion. We developed a terrific telephone relationship over the course of 7 years. And I talked to Ernie and Craig. I looked at clippings of newspaper articles. I researched the British medical system. And then when I'd finished the script, I showed it to every Brit I knew because as an American, I wanted to make sure that it sounded British.